Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Sports Debates. I'm Ryan, joined by Emmanuel. Today, we are breaking down the Giannis Antetokounmpo blockbuster trade. It's a longtime Bucks legend is on his way to Miami. This was a trade that I feel like several years in the making. The last few deadlines and off seasons, there's been rumors. People, this is the time he's getting traded. Finally happened this off season, and it was between the Heat and the Celtics down to the wire, and the Heat came out victorious. So we're going to go over the details, share our initial reactions to this move, and then dive more into what's next for both sides, as well as the Jaylen Brown Celtics fallout that could potentially lead to more drama in the coming weeks. So the deal was Giannis Antetokounmpo and Bobby Portis, who was added on the next day, to the Heat in exchange for Tyler Herro, Kel'el Ware, Jaime Jaquez Jr., Kasparis Jakusionis, 3 first-round picks, a pick swap, and 1 second-round pick. So this is one of the heftier packages we've seen in a while. Sharp contrast to the Celtics offer, which was Jaylen Brown and 2 picks. So off the bat, Emmanuel, what was your initial reaction to the size of this trade package?
Well, my initial reaction was I almost automatically equated it to the Paul George trade, and I was thinking, wow, this is such a huge win for the Bucks with this overall haul. Most people didn't seem to like it, but I thought this was amazing. You got amazing value for Giannis. I know not a lot of these guys are superstars, but they're young, promising players, and that's what you're looking for when you're rebuilding a team.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's interesting to compare with some other trades in recent memory. I mean, we always bring up the Luka trade. Luka Doncic was traded for 1 first-round draft pick, which is
And
crazy.
what we can
And
do with Bill
obviously,
Bridges,
yeah, obviously
who
there
got five
was,
first rounds.
yeah, it's there really isn't a like formula to what these players are worth. It always seems to change every time a star player is traded. Sometimes it's for a buttload of picks. Sometimes it's just like one or two. It doesn't really make sense. Um, but yeah, this was an insane trade package. Obviously, Giannis, one of the best players of the decade. He's going to be worth a lot, but I was expecting either draft pick heavy or player heavy, and this was both. So crazy haul. Um, so let's take a look at the Miami Heat and where they're at right now, heading into the offseason and next season. So this trade obviously cost them a ton in the financial realm. They are left with $18.1 million to spend below the apron. That's all they have to spend. They have to fill like 4 roster spots. Andrew Wiggins has a $30 million player option. They're hoping that he declines that and restructures it. Norman Powell is a unrestricted free agent. He's worth around $20 million, so he may not be able to come back now. They still have to fill out some of the roster spots, but the starting five is looking pretty strong. Davion Mitchell at point guard, Giannis at power forward, Bam Adebayo at center, potentially Andrew Wiggins, potentially Norman Powell. You got Nikola Jovic as well. So first, looking at this current roster, looking at the Eastern Conference, which was very wide open last year. How far up did the Heat rise in the Eastern Conference hierarchy?
Well, I think they rose up about 5 spots, considering that they were the 10th seed. I think they're going to be a top five team in the East this upcoming season with this talented roster that they have. But of course, obviously, I wouldn't put them as saying they're like top three or a true contender because this team, now that you give up so many players, you have so many holes to fill as well with not that much money. And the draft is quickly coming to an end as we're about to enter the second round today.
Yeah, I mean, I think that in theory, just having Giannis moves you up to a contender. I don't think they're at the top tier. I think it's Pistons, Knicks, Celtics. I'm throwing in the Cavs in there just because they've proven they can win 50 games in the regular season. I think that's the top tier there. I
And
think
don't forget, Tyrese is coming back next season.
And the Pacers, yeah, the Pacers, we'll see where they fall in. I think Heat are just below that top tier. I think they're around where like the Raptors and Hawks are. Mind you, those are teams that are better constructed right now, roster wise. But I think just having Giannis elevates you. I don't think they're finals contenders. in the East, it's kind of a chance, but I
I
think
think
that,
they. I was gonna say I think they're guaranteed to make the playoffs at the very
yeah, they're
least.
definitely a playoff team. They've moved from play in to playoff team. That's for sure. But they got to add to this team and fill some roster spots. And they don't have a lot of money to spend. So, what kind of players can they target to add a little more depth to this team around Giannis and Bam?
Well, not to say, but there is a certain player that's very upset with their position and want more money right now, and he's not getting that starting position. And I was thinking the Heat could maybe make an offer for Kassan Wallace from the Thunder, who wants a starting position. He's a great defensive player. He's a great offensive player. He's young. He'll be there after the Giannis, and he really works hard and does everything else that you really need a player to do. So I think that would be a really great spot. They probably won't have to pay him tons and tons of money. He'll definitely take up maybe that $18 million spot, depending on whatever he wants. But I think that would be a really great move. But yeah, you got to target the guard. You got to make sure you have floor spacing because with Giannis' inability to shoot threes, you kind of limit yourself. But you do have Bam Adebayo and potentially Norman Powell, Andrew Wiggins, who can stretch the floor.
Yeah, 3-point shooting is definitely a must. Good thing about the Heat, they've always been good at finding kind of cheap 3-point guards, Duncan Robinson and Max Strus and all those guys over the years that have come in, scrappy players, end up having pivotal roles on really good teams. They're going to have to target a lot of guys that are expecting the vet minimum. I was just reading an article, some names that were brought up: Chris Middleton, Bruce Brown, Gabe Vincent, and Tim Hardaway, all guys that are projected the vet minimum. It's only about 3, 4, $5 million tops. Um, all those guys would fit that mold of a 3-point guard that they could slot in there. Um, yeah, it's tricky. It's tricky, but I also think that the Heat, they obviously knew the financial restrictions that were going to come with trading for Giannis, in the aftermath of it. So I think they definitely have a plan of some sorts. Maybe it's another trade setup. I don't know what more they have to offer in terms of trades. So it's people saying a Nikola Jovic could be moved potentially. That's really your last trade asset there. But I trust that the Heat have a plan here. It's just interesting to see what it actually is going to be.
And I'll just throw this out there. He wouldn't be a vet minimum, but he wouldn't be a big contract either. It'd probably be Isaiah Joe because the Thunder are way over the cap space and he's a
Yeah,
great 3-point shooter. And I think that would really fit the Heat's lineup very, very well.
for sure. One more thing on the Heat side of things, more central around Giannis. I was just thinking about the teams that Giannis has had around him over the years. Obviously, he won a championship with the Bucks. Um, he's never really had or been a part of a crazy duo. He had Dame for a couple seasons, but Dame was on the older side and
Yeah.
a little hurt, and we never really got to see that duo blossom. The year that he won, Chris Middleton was his number two, but Chris Middleton was never more than kind of a fringe all star. Obviously, he stepped up big in the playoffs, but on paper, he's not, a top 20 player. Now he has Bam Adebayo, big man duo. A lot of times when we're looking at legacies of players, we kind of look at who their number two guy was. Is Bam Adebayo the best Robin that Giannis has had yet in his career?
Uh, well, of course, this is all speculation because we haven't seen it happen yet. But I was also considering Drew Holiday as
Mm,
well as
yeah.
being a pretty good Robin. But honestly, after seeing Bam drop 83, you gotta probably say yes, he's going to be the best Robin that Giannis is ever going to see.
Yeah. How do you think that duo is going to work? I mean, we don't see a lot of
Uh,
big man duos
the
that,
last time I was going to say the last time I remembered a big man duo was with the Pelicans, Anthony Davis and DeMarcus Cousins, which
mm,
was like in the 2010s, which didn't
yeah,
work out because they were both injury prone. But oh my goodness, when they played, they dominated players, and it was one of the best basketball I ever seen. But usually when the two big men are like that, and because Anthony Davis back then was able to stretch the floor, which we see a similarity with Bam Adebayo, I expect it to work the same if they can stay healthy, I expect them to be a replica of the 2010 Pelicans and actually make it work. So I'm actually quite excited about this. So I think it's going to work out pretty well because they're not two centers that are forced to occupy the paint. They can stretch it out.
Hmm. For sure. Yeah, and we'll be seeing this duo for at least 2 seasons. Giannis owed $58.5 million this season, and he has a $62 million player option. Um, but he'll be up for some extensions over the years, with opt and opt outs. You know how all that works. So at least 2 seasons, but you imagine he will be preparing to offer him some extensions and keep him around much longer. All right, let's switch over to the Buck side of things. They finally move on from Giannis, who was the face of their franchise for so many years. He's been part of their organization since he was like 13 years old. I mean, this guy raised by the Bucks. Obviously, they hate to see him go, but I think it was a trade that needed to happen for where this organization was going. They haven't been true contenders really ever since winning the championship, a couple seasons after that, but injuries and all sorts of stuff got in the way. Um, they get a haul here, and now they're looking at a starting five of Ryan Rollins, Tyler Harrow, Kyle Kuzma, Pete Nance, and Miles Turner, with Jakusionis slotting in there, Khalil Ware, Jaime Jaquez, all your top guys off the bench potentially becoming starters. All of those guys, a lot of years of control. Harrow is in the final year of his contract, that a 4-year contract he had with the Heat, so he'll be a free agent at the end of this season at 26. But Kilauea, 2 years remaining, and then he'll be a restricted free agent. Jaquez he's on his rookie contract still. He'll be a restricted free agent. Jakusionis has 3 years left on his rookie contracts. These guys are young, controllable, and not costing the Bucks too much. Bucks now are under the luxury tax. They got a lot of money to spend. They're free from all their financial restrictions. Last year, missed the playoffs. They still have a somewhat competitive team, though, right? You've still got Miles Turner. Tyler Harrow is an all-star player. Do you think the Bucks in the East are still a playoff team heading into next season?
Um, Truthfully, no, not with the teams that are competing. You got teams like the Magic, even the Sixers, Hornets. You got Pacers are coming back, the Wizards. I don't think they'll be a playoff team, but that's completely okay with the new tanking rules, which plays a very interesting part in this entire trade makeup because of the draft picks and how they're now valued because of the new rules that will be implemented this season. So I can't wait to see that, but I don't think the Bucks will be a playoff team.
Yeah, so with that in mind, then what is the window for the Bucks look like? I guess,
Um,
what is the future that this package gives them? Is it, next season, 2 seasons down the line? Are we looking at a little bit of a longer rebuild? What do you see for the future here?
well, I'm definitely not expecting a Kings type of rebuild where it's going to be taking decades. Um, this should be a relatively short rebuild because you acquired such young talent, like in Khalil Weir. I'm not sure if Tyler Hero is going to be re-signed at all because of his contract, but we'll see how that goes. And Jaime Jaquez, you got all these really talented players, so I expect it to be a relatively short rebuild because you have players, money, and everything else you need. Even if you are in a small market and it's hard to acquire free agents, I believe the Bucks can do it, and it will be a short rebuild.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what these young guys can do in Milwaukee. A lot of freedom to blossom. All these guys, first round picks, I believe, and a lot of them, Jakusionis, who's a rookie last year, wasn't playing. He 18 minutes a game, but he shot really well, 42% from three. So excited to see what he can become there. Khalil Ware made a lot of big strides this last season, his second year in the league. Played the same amount of minutes as his rookie year, but he went up from like 9 to 11 points a game. His 3 point shooting went up like 10%. So now you've got a big man who can become a 3 point threat as well. So excited to see where all those guys can go. Yeah, I don't think it's going to be too long. And you've got all these draft picks, so you can kind of go all in that or use them in a couple seasons for trades as well. A lot of flexibility there. Um, One thing I have been trying to figure out is like whose team is this next season? I mean, Tyler Harrow, I guess, is the most
Kuzma's.
prolific, well-known player. Miles Turner, they signed to a pretty big contract. Um, Harrow is only here for a year, assuming he doesn't resign. Maybe he does. But do you see any of these guys on the team right now becoming like the star? Or is the star someone that has yet to be drafted and added to this team?
Oh, I completely forgot about him. It would probably have to be Ryan Rollins, right? I think he would have to be the top candidate, either that or Khalil Weir. And then I physically am incapable of saying that it could be ever be Kyle Kuzma on this team. So it's going to have to be between Ryan Rollins and Khalil Weir.
Yeah, Rollins was a very underrated player last year. I think he broke out into the scene, had a lot of opportunities with just the way the Bucks were not competitive, and he got to step into the spotlight a little more. So yeah, we'll
Yeah.
see. We'll see what that turns into. Um, all right, I want to now compare this to the Celtics offer. So as I mentioned, very much the opposite kind of offer. You had Jaylen Brown, Finals MVP, superstar player, plus two picks. Um, Bucks looked at both of those offers, went with the one that I believe is the better long term outlook. You get a bunch of draft picks, young players, as opposed to bringing in Jaylen Brown and still being a competitive championship contending team with a superstar. Um, I'll ask you this: if you're the Bucks, are you still taking the Heat's offer? Do you think that was the better offer, or is there a world where you do consider the Celtics?
Oh no, the Celtics offer is by far so much worse, and I'm absolutely never, ever, ever taking that because I I'm gonna keep talking about this. With the new tanking rules, being bad is no longer good. Um, Jaylen Brown does nothing for you. Those two first round picks may do nothing for you. Where you're now, when teams are trying to rebuild, they're now looking to acquire draft picks and sorry, not stars, just younger players. They don't even have to be great or good. They're just looking for younger players to just gamble on. And with the Celtics, you're just giving them Jaylen Brown and two first round picks. Like that does nothing for me. That like it accomplishes nothing for my team or my goal. So yeah, there's no way I would ever take in that Celtics one unless they offered, of course, more.
And on that note, the Celtics reportedly refused to include some young, controllable players such as Hugo Gonzalez, Baylor Skierman, however you say his name, was also someone that the Bucks wanted. He's 25-year-old guard, but Celtics were saying you're getting Jaylen Brown, you're getting two picks. We're not throwing in any of our young guys. From the Celtics' perspective, was that the wrong decision? Do you think they should have offered more, or was Giannis not that important for them to get where they were okay to say this is our offer? If we don't get it, that's fine.
I think the Celtics were wrong. I think they definitely should have offered more to make this more like a more more of a decision for the Bucks because you get Giannis, you're guaranteed number one seed in the East with Jason Tatum. And you got Peyton Pritchard you would have Peyton Pritchard by your side or somebody else, and the Celtics team is so terrifyingly well built that they could survive a trade like this because of how well they built their team. And I would have probably had them as favorites to win a championship over OKC, Spurs, New York, all those other teams if they made that trade because Jason Tatum and Giannis surrounded by a team full of shooters. How terrifying can that be?
Yeah, that would probably be one of the craziest duos in recent memory. Just how
Yep.
influential those guys have been over the last 10 years and having them team up. I agree. I obviously certain organizations run themselves a different way. Certain organizations don't want to, throw all your eggs in the basket for one player. They like to have a long term outlook. Heat obviously were very willing to part ways with all those draft picks and young players in the sake of winning now. Celtics front office clearly wants to still have a long term outlook. And that's just how it is. Certain organizations are just never going to be that aggressive in this trade offer. I just feel like if you're actually going to trade Jaylen Brown and you're offering that seriously, you have to then make sure that trade happens. And we're going to talk about this in just a sec, but like that is a very risky move to offer your finals MVP up in a trade like that. After you say what you will about the playoffs and everything, he kept you guys alive the entire season. Jason Tatum was out until like the last month. He's the reason that the Celtics were still one of the top seeds in the East and were legit championship threats heading into the postseason once Jason Tatum came back.
I mean, we were having conversations about even putting him in like MVP discussions for like
Exactly.
parts of the season.
For that
Like,
reason alone, I mean, he was taking that team on his back and leading them to wins. So now Celtics find themselves in a really sticky situation where Jaylen Brown obviously knows that he was almost traded for Giannis. Now you almost feel like, do you have to trade Jaylen Brown now, or is it's not too bad where you guys can go back next season and it's not awkward, it's not weird. We have the goal in mind, or is this relationship between Jaylen Brown and the Celtics, it's cooked? Now you have to trade him. What do you think?
that's a tough one, man. Wow. See, the thing is, for me, is if it was just a Giannis trade and then all trade talks were completely shut down, I'd be like, okay, they can move past this. You know, it's Giannis, you can understand. But they continue to try to ship him out before the draft as well. Like they were
Yeah,
actively looking for trades for him. So now I'm like, okay, wow, is this how y'all really feel about me? I saved this team during the entire regular season, and now you want to just ship me off like I'm garbage after all I've done for this organization? Yeah, there's gonna be some problems in the locker room, I'm sure. Jaylen Brown is a professional. He's a really smart guy, but I would not be surprised if this was a personal slight towards him and he felt, you know, done wrong.
yeah. I mean, I feel like if I'm him, even just hearing the first rumor with Giannis, like I understand as an athlete, you have to understand there's a business and like trades are gonna happen. But I think even after that, even if there were no trade rumors afterwards, I'd be like, come on, guys, what's this about? Not only
Yeah,
did lead I'm your finals MVP, like I'm cemented in Celtics history forever. Like, and now you want to trade me for Giannis is one thing, but now you just want to get rid of me just because you feel like you have to. Um, so with that in mind, off the top of your head, are there any teams that should jump in here for Jaylen Brown and call the Celtics?
Atlanta.
Mm.
I'm making a quick call. Nikhil Alexander Walker with Jaylen Brown. I don't know where they're gonna do with Zachary Richardson. Not like he's important to that team really, but Jalen Johnson, Dalen Dyson Daniels. That would be a really really good squad. The only problem there is probably contractually how the finances will work. Um, and now I'm trying to think of a Western team.
About the Spurs?
I was thinking the Nuggets.
Nuggets? Okay. I like that
Get
one
rid of
too.
maybe Jamal Murray. It's no longer the guy you want. Jaylen Brown got to come in and step in with Jokic. You know, of course, me personally, I would hate that because now that makes the Nuggets a legitimate threat. But that could be a good team. I wouldn't say the Timberwolves because Jaylen Brown's not really a point guard; he's a shooting guard. So I wouldn't
In
worry there.
the Trailblazers mentioned as well, young and up and coming team looking for a
With Denny,
franchise face.
I could,
Well, yeah,
I could,
but
I could see that. Well, I'm saying, but with he'll be
yeah,
partner
with
up
Denny,
with
yeah,
Denny
yeah,
on. Yeah, yeah,
kind of have that veteran guy to come in. But yeah, like you mentioned, it will be a big financial responsibility to take on. He's halfway through his 5 year, $285 million extension. So he's owed 57 million this coming season, 61
Ooh,
million next year, and then $64.9 million in that third year. And then he hits free agency at 33. So you're taking on 3 years, well over $150 million. So not every team's going to be able to do that. And it's going to be another Giannis situation where you're going to have to be prepared. to fill some roster spots with not a lot of money left. So very select few teams that can probably pull off that trade. But if you're the Celtics, now you got to figure out what are we doing with this? Do we have to make this trade or not?
Mm.
So we'll see how that progresses over the coming weeks. Um, so
I'll
to
give you
wrap,
Jalen Williams for him. I would.
oh, Thunder, yikes! All right. Um, so to wrap up, let's grade this trade for each side, the Heat and the Bucks. So just a basic letter grade for both sides, considering all the factors of finances, outlook, what they needed to do. Let's start with the Bucks for this trade. Obviously, I feel like anytime you're trading a superstar like Giannis, there's no world where I think it's going to be like an A plus because you never want to trade someone like that. And the fact that you found yourself in a scenario where that was the best option sucks. So I don't think they're going to get an A plus from me. But what do you give them the Bucks in this?
Well, when I'm about to give for the letter grade, I'm thinking of a couple things. My initial goal as the organization, what I intended to do with this trade, and if it helps me accomplish my goal, the financials of it, and the returns. So I would have to give them an A minus for this because you get tons of returns. It helps you towards your goal of bringing in young, talented team that will help you with your rebuild, and you dip underneath the luxury tax. All my goals have been accomplished. Has to be an
Yep.
A minus right
Yeah, that dipping on the luxury tax, I think, is the biggest win for the Bucks because they were really stuck there. They really couldn't do much, especially after they added on Dame for a couple years there. Like they were really stuck financially. They really couldn't make any moves, and that's why they were lacking, a good supporting cast around those two. And then when they got injured, they really had nobody. Um, I like that A minus. I think I'm gonna give that to them as well because I think it's as good of a package that you could have gotten considering you're trading Giannis. Again, they found themselves. That's their fault that they weren't competitive. That they made some you know bad financial decisions and had to trade Giannis. But I think they recouped it all pretty well. How about the Heat? Big swing. You're stuck. What do you give them?
there. I would give them a B.
Okay.
Um, helps me win now. Um, it takes away the downside would be it takes away a lot of my cap space with leaving me with 18 million left to spend, and I got two players, talented players. One was an all-star last year, who I may or may not be able to resign because I'm sure Norman Powell somebody's going to throw a bag towards him. And my assets, I get back Giannis and Bobby Porter. But so Giannis brings up that draft or the return grade high. So I have to go with the B.
I'm gonna go B minus, but it could go up depending on how the rest of this offseason goes. I know that's not really part of the trade, but I need to know that the Heat have a plan after this. And if we're entering next season and they haven't really addressed those roster needs, and we've got, 10-day contract guys filling in important roles and we're struggling, and then, we see, maybe Giannis misses a couple weeks and then we're really struggling because we don't have anyone else. That's going to show me that they didn't really have a plan, and that's going to make it
There's
hurt for me. But if they're able to pull off some other moves here and other trades, sign some good guys, and still be in a comfortable spot, then that can bump up to a B plus because I'm like, okay, you guys had a plan, you knew what you were doing. I think that's what's going to happen, but right now I'm going to give them a B minus and wait and see.
mm. So before we close out here, I wanted to ask if besides obviously the Celtics and the Heat, who would you have liked to see make a play for Giannis?
Hmm. I mean, I always want some of the younger up and coming teams to make a push there. So like, the Hawks or Blazers, like someone that you don't have that guy yet. Now I don't know what assets the other teams had, financial. Obviously, you had to be willing to put yourself in a financial hole. Um, So, but I think most of those teams probably do have the space for it. It's just a matter of are they ready to commit to that. But I would have loved to see some of those younger teams get in that mix and kind of make some noise in their respected conferences.
Yeah.
How about you?
I kind of was hoping for the Bulls to at least make a play for it to show that
You
they're
know,
really willing to commit to not being mid for the rest of their
and you remember at
years.
the trade deadline, all those trades for draft picks, and we thought they're about to swing the Giannis trade.
I know.
Didn't happen.
And now there's trade talks about maybe moving on from Josh Giddey.
Oh no. All right. Well, with that in mind, that will conclude our episode. Big trade, and hopefully we got a lot of more fun off-season drama to talk about. We'll be back to break some more stuff down. Keep following our socials. We're putting some more stuff out on there, non-episode related. Stay tuned. With that in mind, have a great day. We'll see you next time.